Hello, everybody. This is Sharonda, and this is my YouTube channel, Spiritual Sense. Today is May the 14th. This is Saturday, and I decided I was watching a program earlier, and on one of the channels that I normally watch uh, by ways of streaming, and I'm going to touch on a topic in regards to cannibalism. And watching the program, it was a program where it was going over about the Ark of the Covenant and where on the conquest of finding the Ark of the Covenant, where is it located. And so it became apparent to me in watching the program that could, in fact, perhaps during those times, in ancient times, cannibalism in regards to sacrifice of animals or humans as you know, we are considered part of mammals, which in turn is derivative of mammals. So it became apparent to me what could they in fact be talking about human cannibalism in regards to those times. So for those out there who may be viewing in and may not be familiar with cannibalism is the practice of eating the flesh of one's own species. So I'm going to go on a website and I'm going to read some of the information. So it says the act of consuming another individuals of the same species as food. Cannibalism is a common ecological interaction in the animal kingdom and has been recorded more than 1,500 species. Human cannibalism is well documented both in ancient and in recent times. The rate of cannibalism increases in nutritionally poor environments as individuals turn to conspecifics as an additional food source. Cannibalism regulates population numbers, whereby resources such as food, shelter, and territory become more readily available with the decrease of potential competition. Although it may benefit the individual, it has been shown that the presence of cannibalism decreases the expected survival rate of the whole population and increases the risk of consuming a relative. Other negative effects may include the increased risk of pathogen transmission as the encounter rate of hosts increases. Cannibalism, however, does not, as once believed, occur only as a result of extreme food shortages or of artificial unnatural conditions, but may also occur under the natural conditions in a variety of species. So I am going to put in here human cannibalism, and so I can get more information in regards to that. So it says human cannibalism is the act or practice of humans eating the flesh or internal organs of other human beings. A person who practices cannibalism is called a cannibal. The meaning of cannibalism has been extended into zoology to describe an individual of a species consuming all or part of another individual of the same species as food, including sexual cannibalism. So it says in the island of Carib people of the Lesser Antilles, from the word cannibalism is derived, acquired a long-standing reputation as cannibals after their legends were recorded in the 17th century. Some controversy exists over the accuracy of these legends and the prevalence of actual cannibalism in the culture. Cannibalism was practiced in New Guinea and in parts of the Solomon Islands, and flesh markets existed in some parts of Melanesia. Fiji was once known as the Cannibal Isles. Cannibalism has been well documented in much of the world, including Fiji, the Amazon basin, the Congo, and the Maori people of New Zealand. Neanderthals are believed to have practiced cannibalism, and Neanderthals may have been eaten by anatomically modern humans. Cannibalism was also practiced in ancient Egypt, Roman Egypt, and during famine times in Egypt, such as the Great Famine of 1199 through 1202. Cannibalism has recently been both practiced and fiercely condemned in several wars, especially in Liberia and the Democratic Republic of Congo. It was still practiced in Papua New Guinea as of 2012 for cultural reasons, and in ritual as well as in war in various Melanesian tribes. Cannibalism has been said to test the bounds of cultural relativism because it challenges anthropologists to define what is or is not beyond the pale of acceptable human behavior. Some scholars argue that no firm evidence exists that cannibalism has ever been a socially acceptable practice anywhere in the world at any time in history, although this has been consistently debated against. A form of cannibalism popular in early modern Europe was the consumption of body parts or blood for medical purposes. This practice was at its height during the 17th century, although as late as the second half of the 19th century, some peasants attending an execution are recorded to have rushed forward and scraped the ground with their hands that they might collect some of the bloody earth, which they subsequently crammed in their mouth and hoped that they might thus get rid of their disease. Cannibalism has occasionally been practiced as a last resort by people suffering from famine, even in modern times. So it says some famous examples include the ill-fated Donner Party of 1846 to 47. Most recently, the crash of the Uruguayan Air Force Flight 571 in 1972, after which some survivors ate the bodies of the dead. Additionally, there are cases of people suffering from mental illness engaging in cannibalism for sexual pleasure, such as Jeffrey Dahmer, Albert Fish. So there is resistance to formally labeling cannibalism a mental disorder. Now it goes on to mention about, well, what are some of the reasons? So what will be some of the reasons for someone to resort to eating of another human being's flesh? Well, it mentions in some societies, cannibalism is a cultural norm. Consumption of a person from within the same community is called endocannibalism. Ritual cannibalism of the recently deceased can be part of the grieving process or be seen as a way of guiding the souls of the dead into the bodies of living descendants. Exocannibalism is the consumption of a person from outside the community, usually as a celebration of victory against a rival tribe. Both types of cannibalism can also be fueled by the belief that eating a person's flesh or internal organs will endow the cannibal with some of the characteristics of the deceased. In Guns, Germs, and Steel, Jared Diamond suggests that protein deficiency was the ultimate reason why cannibalism was formerly common in the New Guinea highlands. In most parts of the world, cannibalism is not a society norm, but it is sometimes resorted to in situations of extreme necessity. The survivors of the shipwrecks of Essex and Medusa in the 19th century are said to have engaged in cannibalism, as did the members of Franklin's Lost Expedition and the Donner Party. Such cases generally involve necro cannibalism, eating the corpse of someone who is already dead, as opposed to homicidal cannibalism, killing someone for food. In English law, the latter is always considered a crime. Even in the most trying circumstances, the case of R versus Dudley and Stevens, um, in which two men were found guilty of murder for killing and eating a cabin boy while adrift at sea in a lifeboat, set the precedent that necessity is no defense to charge of murder. In pre modern medicine, the explanation given by the now discredited theory of humorism for cannibalism was that it came about within a black acrimonious humor, which, being lodged in the linings of the ventricle, produced the ferocity of human flesh. So it says there was a well known case of mortuary cannibalism in the Fore tribe in New Guinea, which resulted in the spread of prion disease, Kuru, of the prion disease, Kuru. Although the forest mortuary cannibalism was well documented, the practice was ceased before the cause of disease was recognized. However, some scholars argue that although post-mortem dismemberment was the practice during funeral rites, cannibalism was not. Marvin Harris theorized that it happened during a famine period coincident with the arrival of Europeans and was rationalized as a religious rite. In 2003, a publication in Science received a large amount of press attention when it suggested that early humans may have practiced extensive cannibalism. According to this research, genetic markers commonly found in modern humans worldwide suggest that today many carry a gene that involved a protection against the brain diseases that can be spread by consuming human brain tissue. A 2006 reanalysis of the data questioned this hypothesis because it claimed that to have found a data collection bias, which led to an erroneous conclusion. This claim bias came from incidents of cannibalism used in an analysis not being due to local cultures, but having been carried out by explorers, stranded seafarers, and escaped convicts. The original authors published a subsequent paper in 2008 defending their conclusions. So, it goes on extensively. I am on Wikipedia in regards to cannibalism. It's some very, very extensive information that goes over about World War II, Japan, Argentina, many different countries where there's some documented history on cannibalism. And I'm not going to go too much extensive into it, the information, but I am on Wikipedia. I do know of a story during, the concentration camps, during the Holocaust times, where when the abundance of massive death and the horrible things that happened during those times, there's a story that I do remember, book I do remember reading where they began to feed the survivors, the dead corpses of those who died during the Holocaust, that died by means of either starvation or by gas or torture or whatever the case may be. Okay, so I will go over um, it pretty much gives accounts of cannibalism all around the world. It says myth, legends, and folklore. Cannibalism features in the folklore and legends of many cultures. Is most often attributed to evil characters as extreme retribution for some wrongdoing, such as Hansel and Gretel, Lemia of Greek mythology, Baba Yaga of Slavic folklore, A number of stories in Greek mythology involves cannibalism, particularly close family members, such as the story of Thyestes and Tiresias, especially Cronus, who was Saturn in the Roman pantheon. The story of Tantalus also parallels cannibalism. And so it just goes on further in regards to cannibalism. But I do feel as though, as it mentions here about cannibalism and not having too many documented cases of it, I do feel as though it does happen in certain regions of the world, particularly where there's a lack of nutrition, proper nutrition, a lack of access to proper resources, and as a result, they may result to sacrifice um, of each other in order to survive. So that's what I believe. It's a very disfortunate situation. It's very, very, it's a disheartening situation to witness and notice things such as this. But I do feel as though it's a very relevant topic to speak about because it jarred me when I was watching the program what it mentioned about the Ark of the Covenant, and when one of the characters of the Bible was asked by God to to slay his son, and if he loved him, and just to see what he would do and things of the sort. So and I feel as though ultimately that was something that transpired even back then in biblical times, ancient times, is what I feel. Okay, so I'm going to close out this video presentation on spiritual sense in regards to human cannibalism. So if you have any questions, comments, or suggestions, you're more than welcome to comment below. Until then, have a safe and wonderful day. Good day.